Hello, it is Mr. Mitchell here with another video for National 5 Chemistry, and in this video we are going to look at something slightly new. We are going to be looking today at mole and solution calculations. Okay, now you will find these are very similar to some calculations you've done before. We are going to use a triangle just like we have done previously for other calculations, but we're going to put some different letters in it and we will use this triangle to work out slightly different things. Okay, now what we are going to be looking at today is how do we figure out the number of moles of a solute, so that is something that has been dissolved, or how do we figure out its volume, or how can we figure out its concentration of the solution. So we're looking at those three things: the number of moles, the volume, and the concentration. Now before we start doing any of these calculations, the one of the things that is really useful for you to be aware of is how to convert different volumes, which is what's in this white box here. Now what I would suggest you do for yourself is, before you write down anything, is that you take a note of this title here. If you want, you can write down this little section here, but I want you to definitely make sure that you write down this white box, okay? Because we are going to be using these conversions today in this video. So pause the video and write down that white box first. Okay, this is the triangle that we are going to look at today. It has three letters in it, okay, but it is the same structure as the one that you've seen previously. Now, N stands for our number of moles, okay. C stands for concentration, okay, and V stands for volume. So number of moles is measured in moles, okay, we've seen this already. Concentration is, volume is measured in litres. This is important actually. And lastly, our concentration is measured in moles per litre, and you can write this two ways. Now what I would suggest you do is you pick one and you stick to it, okay. It's likely I'll probably use this one today, but you can use that one, however, whatever one you want, you pick it and you stick to it, okay. Don't switch between them, either are accepted, okay. So N is number of moles in moles, C is concentration in moles per litre, and V is volume in litres. And you'll notice there's the N, the C, and the V there. And what we're going to be doing today is we're going to be working with this triangle to figure out some of these values. So what we're going to do is I want you to take a note of this triangle here with this little box here. I suggest you pause the video and take a second to do that, and then we're going to have a look at the relationships, and then we're going to dive right into some examples. So one of the first things you need to know are the three equations that can be made using this triangle. The first is number of moles equals concentration times volume, okay. Now sometimes what I like to do to make it a little bit more obvious for ourselves is put a little cross there and a divide sign there, because that then tells us, okay, well, if I want to figure out N, I'll just circle that there, it would be C times V, okay. And this works no matter what one you're trying to figure out, whether you're trying to figure out number of moles, concentration, or volume. Let's have a look at another relationship. So right there it says if you want to figure out concentration, all you have to do is the number of moles divided by the volume. So if you want to figure out concentration, I would just circle that and I would say, okay, well, that must be number of moles divided by my volume, which is right there. And last but certainly not least, if we wanted to figure out the volume, that would be number of moles divided by concentration. So if I wanted to figure out this volume here, I would do the number of moles and I would divide it by the concentration. So there's the three different equations that you can get from this one triangle. Now, these equations, in fact, I believe this one is in your data booklet. Let's go check actually. At the front of the data booklet, there should be, please work. there we go, N equals CV, okay, which is that one there. So this one is actually in your data booklet, which if you ever forget where the letters go in the triangle, the data booklet can tell you, okay? So bear that in mind if you ever get a little bit lost and confused. What I suggest you do is you pause the video and if you want to, you can take a note of these three relationships if you feel like you would like to do that. Okay, the first question. Now, what I would also suggest you do is that you pause the video just now and you write down this question, okay, because these are going to be example questions for us, and it will be much more useful if you have what you're trying to figure out in your jotter before you put the answer. So I would suggest that you pause the video and that you take a note of this question before we go through the answer. So once you've got the question down and you have read it, the best thing to do is to figure out what the question gives you. Now this question says calculate the number of moles of potassium hydroxide which must be dissolved to make a 200 centimeters cubed 0.5 mole per litre solution. Okay, so from that it's asking us to calculate the number of moles. So it wants the number of moles, it wants N. Okay, now that means that we don't know what N is. That's what the question is asking for. So it must give us our concentration and our volume, or give us a way to figure it out. So let's tackle our concentration first. That would be 0.5 moles per litre, because remember concentration is measured in moles per litre. So that right there is 0.5. And the volume here is 200 centimeters cubed. Now, if you remember, that's not what we said we were going to measure volume in. If we go back here, we actually like to measure volume in litres. So what we need is this here. So we need to know how do we go from centimeters cubed into litres. And what we have to do is we have to divide it by 1,000. So that's what we're going to do now. Back to our question. So we have 200 centimeters cubed and we want that in litres. So all we have to do is 200 divided by 1,000, which will give us it in litres, which, if you've done the maths correctly, is 0.2 litres. So we now have our concentration, we now have our volume, and we want to figure out our number of moles. So our number of moles equals C times V, our concentration times our volume, which we can just put our numbers in now. So our concentration was 0.5 and our volume was 0.2 in the end, not 200, because we have to convert it. So you need to remember this step here, this conversion. That is where you will kind of get tripped up and maybe get this wrong. Remember, you need to convert it into litres. And if we do 0.5 times 0.2, put that in your calculator, you should get 0.1 moles. And that should be the final answer. So make sure that you have all of this down in your jotter before we move on to the next one. Okay, same story as with the last one. What I would suggest you do is you pause the video and you take a note of this question before we move on any further. Right, we are going to tackle this one the exact same way as we did before. We're going to read the question and we're going to see what it gives us in the question. I'm just going to write N, C and V out the now. So it says calculate the concentration of the following solution. 0.1 moles of hydrogen chloride dissolved to make 500 centimeters cubed of solution. So straight away it says calculate the concentration. We know that we are looking for the concentration this time, so I'm going to put a question mark there because that's what it's looking for in the question. Now this question gives us some information. It says 0.1 moles of it, so we know the number of moles is 0.1, and it says that we have 500 centimeters cubed. which is our volume there. Now, before we go any further, remember, what do we measure our volume in? It's not centimeters cubed for us, it's litres. So you need to convert that into litres before you do anything else. And you do that by dividing that 500 by 1000, which should give you 0.5. Now, don't try and do these in your head, these calculations. Make sure that you've got a calculator handy with you, because you don't want to lose marks just for a simple maths error. So don't try and do these in your head, just get a calculator to do the work for you. Work smart, not hard. Now it asks us to calculate the concentration, which is C. And remember, concentration is number of moles divided by volume. So C equals N divided by V. So I'm just going to write that here. C equals N divided by V. And for our numbers, that would be 0.1 divided by 0.5, because we converted it, remember. Which in the end would give us 0.2. Now 0.2 what was our concentration measured in again? Moles per litre. Okay, and that would be the final answer. Now remember, this moles per litre, you can either write it as mole/L or mole L to the -1. It doesn't matter which one you choose, just pick one and stick to it. Notice I'm going to stick into this one. The only reason that I'm using this one is because that is the one that it gave us in the question previously. It doesn't matter which one you choose, okay? So just pick one and stick to it. Okay, make sure you've got all of this down before you move on to the next question. Right, last question. Again, pause the video, take a note of this question before going any further. Okay, same story as the last two. We are going to write what we know from the question and what we need. Okay, so this one says calculate the volume in litres of the following solution. Then it gives you the concentration, which is 5 moles per litre, and the number of moles, which is 2 moles. Okay, so it wants us to calculate the volume, which means I should put the question mark there because that's what I asked for in the question. Number of moles that it gives you is 2 moles, and the concentration is 5 moles. Okay, so for this one, if we want to figure out our volume, we would have to do our number of moles divided by our concentration, which would be N divided by C, which is 2 divided by 5. Now, in all seriousness, just type it into your calculator. That gives you 0.4 litres. And that's how you do that one. Okay, so even if you want to try and do these in your head, I would very much suggest that you check them with your calculator. What we don't want is people doing correct chemistry and getting it wrong, losing marks by just getting silly maths things wrong. Okay, so make sure that you use a calculator for these, please. Again, make sure that you've got all of this down in your jotter before you move on to the next one. Okay, for this last one, it's going to be a little bit different. Now we're going to start off and just read the question first. It says, calculate the mass in grams of sulfuric acid present in 500 centimeters cubed of a 5 mole per litre solution. Now you'll notice there's something different about this question compared to the other two. It wants us to calculate the mass. Okay, now our triangle, which I'm sure we haven't forgotten, has 3 letters in it. It has N, C, and V. Now none of these stand for mass, but we do have a triangle from previous calculations that has mass in it. Now some of you might remember the rhyme My Nice Granny. and that is M for mass, N for number of moles, which is the same N as here, and GFM, which stands for gram formula mass, okay? So it does give us some information in the question, okay? What does it give us in the question? Well, it gives us a volume in centimeters cubed, and it gives us a concentration, which we can write down. Now, remember, we don't like centimeters cubed, we want it in litres, so the first thing we're going to do is we are going to convert that into litres by dividing it by 1,000, which would give us 0.5 litres, okay? Now, what can we calculate if we have both the volume and the concentration? Well, we can calculate the number of moles, can't we? So, our number of moles equals our volume and our concentration times together, just as we did before. So that would be our 5 times 0.5. Oh, sorry. Work. Times 0.5. Which, when you put that in your calculator, would give you 0.25 moles. So we've now figured out what N is, and it's asking us to figure out what M is. Okay, that's what the question wants. Now, how can we figure out this M? Well, if we have N and our GFM, we can figure out what M is. So we already have N, which is 0.25. All we need now is our GFM, which we can get using our formula there, our H2SO4, and using this method here. So 4 times the mass of oxygen, 1 times the mass of the sulfur, and 2 times the mass of a hydrogen. Now, where do we find the mass of these elements? You find them in your data booklet. So let's go and have a look for them. Now, let's see, this is them here, okay? Names, symbols, and relative atomic masses. So the first element that we need is oxygen. So let's go and find where is oxygen. There it is there. Oxygen is 16. So 4 times 16. Next one is sulfur. Let's find sulfur. SU, so it should be down here. There it is. Sulfur is 32. So 32. And hydrogen is 2. No, it's not. That's totally wrong, Mr. Mitchell. It's 1. Getting too far ahead of myself. Let's go and look for it anyway. We should be. There we go. Hydrogen's 1 there. So if we do our 4 times our 16, that will give us 64. If we do 1 times 32, that should give us 32. And 2 times 1 is 2, which is why I wrote 2 earlier. Now if we add all of them together, it gives us 98 grams. So we now have our relative atomic mass. So we've our gram formula mass, sorry. So we've got our gram formula mass, we've got our number of moles, and it's asking us for our mass in the question. So all we have to do is mass equals number of moles times gram formula mass, which is 0.25 times our 98. And once you type that into your calculator, you will get the answer. I'll let you do that. Pause the video now and figure out what the answer is. Okay, So if you do 0.25 times 98, you should find that you get the answer 24.5 grams. And that is the mass, that is what it asked for in the question. So you can see here that we actually had to use both our triangles to get to this answer, because it gave us our volume and a concentration but asked us for a mass. So it won't always be as straightforward as just using one triangle or just using the other. Now that we know them both, we may have to use them both in the same question. Okay? So what you're going to be set this week for work is to do some practice of the simple ones and then some practice of using both of them together, because you should already be very happy and familiar with using your mass, number of moles, and gram formulas. Now, if anyone has any questions about this calculation or any of the extra ones that we set you as practice, please get in touch with us, email us, post on Teams, ask whatever questions you need to get it done. Okay? Now, next time we are going to be looking at something slightly new. Next time we're going to be looking at titration calculations. So get ready for that one in the next video. That's all for me for now. Enjoy the practice and the questions, and as I said before, if you have any questions, please just get in touch and ask us.